Quite a few people with some thoughts on this, including West Midlands MEP Nikki Sinclaire. She tweeted earlier on, such waste, surely we need them to work with food banks, shelters, etc., to cut wastage. Well, we've got her on. Let's go and speak to Nikki Sinclaire. Morning, Nikki.
Good morning.
Obviously you feel very strongly about this, judging by your tweet. I mean, what do you think they could do? And we spoke to a food bank earlier on, and in fairness, they said it's not really the sort of food that they can use.
No, that's quite true. Perishable food is a problem for food banks to take up, but there is an increasing amount in the West Midlands to kind of have food cafes associated with food banks where people can go and get hot meals, so maybe some of that could be used in that direction. But first and foremost is I think the supermarkets need to take greater responsibility here, and I'm glad that Tesco's are beginning to notice the problem that they've got at their hands. I used to manage a supermarket many years ago, and the amount of food that we used to throw away at the end of the week was astronomical and could feed many hundreds of families. I think that the supermarkets need to realise their community responsibilities far more. I think they need to work with food banks. But I think I've said on this radio station before, I think that the general public needs to be educated to food. We have a lack of knowledge of food in this country, probably one of the worst probably in the world of our understanding of food. And I think we could, this food could be used far more wisely if we just understood more about food.
Why do the supermarkets throw so much food away? I mean, you've worked at the sharp end, you've been there.
Yeah.
Why does it just get thrown away? I mean, I think people are quite surprised when they hear that, aren't they?
Mainly it's to do with regulations. For example, if there was a tin with the label missing, it's illegal to sell. So therefore, it's easier for them to throw it in the skip. And I used to work in a managed supermarket in the early 90s, and that's what we had to do. It was what we were told to do by head office, where my argument is that could have been better used by giving it to shelters and so forth. There's obviously labelling laws that makes it impossible for us to have solved that. But, you just have to adapt to the problems of modern society. There are people going hungry. Food bank usage is on the increase. My staff have collected over 3 tons of food and distributed it to food banks. There is a desperate need. People are suffering in these economic times, and I think supermarkets need to do far more than they're currently doing.
Do you think we should ban bagged salads, things like that?
I think so. I mean, I would personally like to go back to, making food from scratch. And I think, again, going back to education, we have a lack of that in our schools and our society. That's
not really the supermarket's fault, though, is it?
No, but obviously when they've made it easy for us over the years, the people have gone on to that step, and I think we actually need to draw back a bit further. And again, it all goes back to education. It keeps going back to education. We live in a very fast society, and we take the easy option. But sometimes the easy option has dire consequences.
Nikki, it's good to speak to you. Thanks ever so much. So, Nikki, the tweet, I'll read you the tweet again. Such a waste. Surely we need to work with food banks and shelters and cut this wastage. Do you agree?